Hello and welcome back to this episode of RADBMX Builds. I'm Sean, the owner, and in this episode we're going to be talking about a very special one-of-one 2021 Dyno Pro Comp team model. This bike came out in 2021 after being designed by no other than Dave Volker, a good friend of mine I got to meet, talk to, interacted with on Instagram. So Dave, this is no dig at you, but I took your bike, your design, and turned it into what I think what it should have looked like when it came out in the first place. The bike I built is very reminiscent of the 1987 Dyno Pro Comp team model, and I'm going to show you a photo of that here. A lot of these retro bikes that come out, in my opinion, are just kind of missing the mark with the full throwback design. If you're going to build a retro bike, really build a retro bike. I know it takes a little bit of effort, a little bit of time, but if you are in the position to design and build these bikes, put in that effort because we'll all appreciate it that much more. This bike was a complete ground up redo from the original, and I had to do that in order to make it look the way that it does now. I've shown you this bike on Instagram, and if you're not following me there, you're missing out on daily content, so make sure you follow me at RAD_BMX_builds. All right, let's get into this very special 2021 Dave Volker inspired Dyno Pro Comp team model in a 24-inch. A lot of people see this bike and they're like, oh man, I had that bike. No, you didn't. You had the 80s version of a 20-inch. This is a new retro version of a 24-inch. Let's check it out. Okay, let's break it down. What did I do? Part by part, what's different? Let me show you and get into detail on everything I had to do to this bike. And when I say everything, it was everything. So let's check this out. Let's start right here. I like to start with the grips. Amy grips, Dyno donuts, Tech 77 locking levers, Odyssey gyro cables, which we'll talk about more in a minute. These are the BMX bars, not the cruiser bars that came with it. GT threadless mallet stem. And then we'll move around to the gyro by Odyssey, which is reminiscent of what they ran back then. They had Odyssey gyros. However, this is the new version. In order to do that, these had to be installed onto the side of the head tube. And I want to give a shout out to Unity Ride Shop for helping me get all this sorted out. And then what we have there is a POTS mod bolt, allowing the front brake cable to run down into the forks, coming up, just like the old school freestyle, into a Nippon style die-comp front brake and the die-comp brake pads. So you're able to run a front brake and able to run the gyro so you can spin the bars around without them being impeded at all with tangled brake cables. That's one of the biggest hurdles that I had to cross, is to get all of that correct. Then for rolling a tire, we have the Kenda K55 24-inch gum wall tires and Skyway Tough 2 wheels. To add a little flavor, a GT valve stem dice cap, and a must are the fork standers. As you can see right up front, this bike has been repowder coated black to look like the original 87 version of the Dyno Pro Comp team model. When I powder coated it, I then had to re-decal it and find decals to redo this bike. Let's go down to the powertrain here where we have what came on the bike. I kept the original GT Power Series cranks and power disc and pedals because those were perfect for this build. But I did add the black and chrome chain. And as we come back, you see the black frame standers that were added onto this bike. And then I swapped out the brakes with some black ones and some Pro Max black and yellow brake pads just to add a little more detail to bring in yellow back into the accent. Then we have a Mission double bolt seat post clamp and a GT sticker on there. And this is not to be exact like the original bikes. That's not my intention. My intention is to just give homage and throwback to those bikes. However, I did find an original dyno seat, and I thought that was a nice added touch to the bike to sit on top of that drain pipe style seat post that these bikes were well known for. So you can see the overall changes made on this bike, and they're pretty astronomical. However, it's very subtle to where the bike looks like it should have just looked like this all along. So Dave, I love what you did. I love the concept. I love the design, but this is the way dyno should have released this bike, and they would have sold thousands more in my opinion, but it's just my opinion, right? I'm sure a lot of you like this look a lot better because it is reminiscent of what they looked like back then. And that's what I love to do with these bikes. Take these new retro bikes and make them look old school. That's what this is all about at RADBMX Builds. Not only do I like the old school BMX, I like taking the new school and making it look old school BMX. This is one of my favorites. Nobody else has done this on this level. I've seen a lot of custom dyno 24-inch bikes out there, but they don't look like this. They haven't gone to the lengths to make it look like an 80s bike. So if you know of anyone that's done this, let me know about it. Let me see their bike. I'd love to see the different takes on this. If you want to do this, it's not easy. It takes time, patience, resources, and money to build a bike like this. This build really wasn't that cheap, and it really wasn't that easy. There was a good 6 months of build in this process. Yes, I had other builds going on at the same time, so that kind of interfered with the timeline, but I wasn't in a hurry. I wanted to find the right parts that looked good, find a dyno seat, because I was running a Dominator on it for a while, and I just wasn't happy with that. I thought a dyno seat would look really good. Would I like a new old stock one or one in better shape? Absolutely, but dyno seats aren't cheap either, so I'm happy to have this one on there. Maybe a better one will come along, but this bike rides so good, so smooth, and believe it or not, the brakes work so good thanks to Unity Ride Shop for dialing those in. This bike now is one of my favorites in my entire collection, and that's why I tell people every time they ask, every time I make a video, a reel, or a post, is it for sale? No, it's not. This one I want to keep because I just love the way it came out. In the 80s, I lived in Moreno Valley, California at the time when this bike came out, this style bike, the 20-inch. And I remember walking into the bike shop and seeing it on top of the glass display case. And I can still remember the smell of walking in there and seeing that bike, the sight, what it looked like, and how much I wanted it. Never got it. Now that I'm older, bigger, the 24 seemed like the right fit. The timing was right. And now I have that childhood memory in a 24-inch version that I got to build in my collection. So I hope you like it. Comment down below. Make sure you subscribe to this channel because I'd love to have you here as part of the RADBMX Builds family. Also, if you're interested in merch, check it out. And bikes for sale, whatever, radbmxbuilds.com. Thanks again for watching, and as always, stay rad.